Sadly, this is a day in Manitoba and across Canada that will be remembered as one of tragedy and incredible sadness.
Breaking tonight, at least 15 dead after a bus filled with seniors and a semi collide on a Manitoba highway. A horrifying scene, destruction, devastation, and now the agonizing wait for families desperate for information. Battered by bombs, swamped by a collapsed dam, residents in Kherson, Ukraine, tell our Margaret Evans why they're staying.
This is my motherland. I was born here. I had my children here. No.
Megan Williams is on the Greek coast, where hope is fading for hundreds of migrants presumed drowned.
One young man started to cry and said, "I need my mother."
This is The National with Ian Hennemansi.
Across the country tonight, Canadians are focused on the horrific highway crash in Manitoba. 25 passengers on a bus that collided with a semi-truck. And families wait to find out if their loved one is one of 10 taken to hospital or one of the 15 who have died. Both vehicles were destroyed in the crash that halted traffic for hours. It happened just before noon local time on a stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway between Winnipeg and Brandon. The bus was headed south from the city of Dauphin on its way to a casino near Carberry. That's when it collided with a truck that was traveling east. Reaction to this tragedy is pouring in from across Canada as the investigation continues. Cameron McIntosh is tracking this story from Winnipeg tonight. Cameron?
Ian, a lot of sorrow here in Manitoba tonight and a lot of questions. How could this happen and who are the victims?
Seniors on a casino trip. Their bus completely destroyed after colliding with this truck in this intersection on the Trans-Canada Highway just north of Carberry, Manitoba, about 2 hours west of Winnipeg. Witnesses describe a horrible scene.
Death on this scale is never normalized for us.
RCMP found bodies strewn about and 10 people injured. Forensic experts are still trying to figure out who the victims are, as accident reconstructionists begin the meticulous task of sorting out what actually happened.
Answers will take some time, but I can assure you that the RCMP will get the answers.
Known so far, a minibus carrying 25 people left Dauphin about 2 hours north for a trip to a casino in Carberry. The bus crossed 2 westbound lanes at an intersection of a divided stretch of the Trans-Canada, then collided with the truck headed east. Both drivers survived. The 10 injured were taken to hospitals, including 4 airlifts to Winnipeg, where Manitoba's largest hospital was put on code orange, focusing all available resources on the accident.
And we are continuing to triage and move them where they need to be. Most of the injuries were head injuries or orthopedic in nature, and we'll continue to assess as we go.
Our hearts are broken, and our thoughts are with the families and loved ones of all the lives impacted by the horrific and devastating tragedy near Carberry.
It's also very similar to the crash in Humboldt. RCMP say experts from that investigation will help in this one. They are treating this as a potential crime scene.
We need to be alive to the fact that there could be wrongdoing. And if so, there could be a criminal element to this investigation.
And Cameron, what do we know about the drivers of the 2 vehicles?
Well, the RCMP are telling us right now that the 2 drivers of the vehicles are alive, at least for now, which may indicate that there are severe injuries here. As for the trucking company that owns the semi-truck that was going down the Trans-Canada Highway, Day and Ross, it released a statement today saying that it's heartbroken by all of this and is cooperating with the RCMP's investigation. We reached out to the bus company, which told us it's not ready to comment yet. And of course, people will look at this, and it's so reminiscent of what happened a few years ago to the Humboldt Broncos. Tonight, the Humboldt Broncos are tweeting that their thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected. Ian?
Yeah, a lot of people for sure thinking about that crash tonight. Cameron McIntosh reporting from Winnipeg tonight. CBC Manitoba's Alana Cole is at the site of the crash right now. Now, you've been there for a few hours, Alana. Tell us what you've seen.
Well, if you take a look behind me, you can see an area here remains taped off by the police. And investigators are here. They're still on scene doing that delicate work that goes into investigating a crash like this. Now, RCMP say that they have all available resources dedicated to this, and that includes major crimes. It also includes a forensic collision reconstruction team. Just recently, in the last little while, we've seen RCMP kind of flying a drone overhead. Earlier today, when we got here, it was unlike any crash or any scene that I've been to, and you could see emergency crews kind of holding up tarps, kind of shielding what investigators were doing behind those tarps, and they were moving from area to area. But yes, I mean, very much still an active scene here tonight.
Yeah, we can hear the trucks obviously going by you on the highway. The RCMP during the news conference was asked what advice they had to family members who might want to go to the scene. And the police said, you know what, really don't do that. Contact us somehow via phone, for example. How are the police working with those families tonight?
RCMP say that they are working, as best they can to get information to people about their loved ones. They say that they're working closely with the medical examiner's office. And we also know that an information center has been set up at a church in Dauphin. Ian?
All right, Alana Cole at the site of the crash outside Carberry, Manitoba tonight. In just a few minutes, we'll hear from a lead investigator and some of the first witnesses who arrived at the scene. And police are advising families assistance is available by calling the Family Support Line. That number is 204-647-5058. The political storm over the prison transfer of Paul Bernardo continues to intensify. The public safety minister has been hounded by questions. Ashley Burke shows the scene that compelled him, finally, to respond.
What happened in your office, Minister? Good morning.
The public safety minister dogged by questions while his office is in crisis control.
With all of the issues that have been caused under his watch, will he do the honorable thing and resign right here, right now?
I'm focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is doing my job.
At a committee into foreign interference, Marco Mendicino couldn't escape MPs or journalists asking about Paul Bernardo.
Just before you all start clamoring for answers to questions, let me say a few things.
Speaking to reporters after dodging them Wednesday, following a bombshell that Mendicino's office said it kept him in the dark for 3 months about the pending prison transfer.
I've taken the corrective steps to ensure that that does not happen again.
After that brief statement, Mendicino tried to brush off reporters for a second day.
This is, I think, a very good and thorough summation of the actions that we've taken today, and I'll be happy to take more questions.
Why didn't your staff tell you? What's the explanation? Why didn't your staff tell you? Why didn't?
Is it a standard operating procedure at your office that you are kept in the dark? And will you let anyone go in response to the handling of this?
Of course not. And my job as the Minister of Public Safety is to make sure that we are identifying issues where there are challenges on information flow.
Cornered and still unable to explain how it all went so wrong.
There's no doubt there is incompetence in his office to not be advised about this. There should be consequences.
In the House, his same lines repeated.
The directions that I have put into motion will ensure that I'm directly briefed.
Canadians have lost confidence in this minister, so will he do the honorable thing and just resign?
The attention now turning to the Prime Minister and his next move.
Do you still have confidence in Minister Mendicino, sir? Do you have confidence?
Good to see you.
Ashley, what happens now?
Well, Ian, as you heard, no answer from the Prime Minister there, but Mendicino is still in cabinet, and that speaks to the level of support he has from Justin Trudeau. But there's pretty clear indications that there could be a cabinet shuffle this summer to reset the government, and the sense is that Marco Mendicino could likely be switching jobs.
All right, Ashley, thank you. At Issue is here to weigh in on the Bernardo briefings. Rosie, along with Chantal, Althea, and Andrew will be along in about 20 minutes. At least 9 survivors of the migrant boat disaster off the coast of Greece are now under arrest, accused of belonging to the smuggling ring that arranged the trip. Hundreds of passengers are feared dead. Among them, as our Chris Brown explains, many children.
With hope of finding anyone else alive in the sea off Greece gone, all that is left is to collect bodies. 700 people may have been on board, but there are only 100 or so survivors.
Someone was telling me that the moment things happened, it was so quick that they were shouting, they were trying to catch to one another, just to jump, take off their clothes, not to have weight.
One young man started to cry and said, "I need my mother." This was a very difficult moment. I need my mother. This voice is inside my ears.
Horribly, survivors told Greek doctors that the hold of the ship was full of children, more than 100. And although that number cannot be independently verified, Save the Children says it fears there was an immense loss of young lives.
Yeah, it's shocking and horrifying. And from Save the Children's perspective, what we really want to emphasize and remember is that these people who died have names, they have families.
Qassam Abu Zaid, a Syrian who lives in Germany, said he paid $4,500 for his now missing wife to make the trip.
شو بتقول مشاعره؟ أكيد مشاعر ما في مشاعر تحكي.
How would I feel? I lost my wife now. I don't know where is she now. So of course.
زوجته.
It's my wife.
There's been some criticism of Greece's Coast Guard that it intercepted the decrepit vessel but didn't stop it. But Greek authorities say the ship was in international waters and legally they did all they could.
If people are forced to take these routes in this way and being exploited under these conditions, we will continue to have such deadly incidents.
There have been several arrests on suspicion of trafficking people across the Mediterranean, the most dangerous migrant crossing in the world. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Most of the survivors have been taken to the Greek city of Kalamata, and tonight that's where our Megan Williams is. And Megan, you arrived this evening. What have you seen?
Well, Ian, I'm standing in the far end of the port where most of the 100 or so survivors are sleeping behind me now in that warehouse. I was here earlier. I saw some of them sitting outside drinking water. One man was going through a bin of secondhand clothing, picking out some clothes. Another man was picking a popsicle from a fridge. The mood was subdued, depressed. I saw only young men. I have heard unofficially that there is a woman as well, but everybody who I've seen so far has been male.
And what about residents? How do they seem to be reacting?
Well, just steps away from here is this boardwalk with restaurants and cafes full. You know, this is a town that's a tourist destination as well, so it's buzzing. But I spoke with some restaurant owners, and one of them spoke of that ancient Greek word xenia, that Greek hospitality that goes back to ancient times. He said the community is bringing food in here, his restaurant as well, water, clothing, blankets. He said the whole town has been impacted by this tragedy and is doing everything they can to help.
Megan Williams in Kalamata, Greece tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Let's turn to Ukraine now, where the UN's top nuclear inspector is at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, days after a major dam collapse threatened its long-term water supply. The plant normally draws its cooling water from a reservoir near Kherson. But water levels have dropped rapidly since the Kakhovka Dam burst last week, causing massive flooding, forcing thousands to flee. That disaster has brought more danger and misery to a region that's had so much already. And CBC News has a crew right in the heart of it. Margaret Evans shows us what they've seen firsthand.
There are times in war when two souls find themselves thrown together and it just sticks. Laura Musian rescued the dog, now shadowing her footsteps. He was stuck on a muddy outcrop as floodwaters rose. The hydrologist was measuring the water in the minutes and hours after the devastating breach of the Kakhovka Dam. My boss called me when it happened, she says. At first, I didn't believe it, then I was scared. She had reason to be. Waters in the reservoir upstream were soon flooding Kherson and the villages around it, stranding thousands and forcing others to flee. People rely on humanitarian hubs like this one. The thing you have to remember about Kherson is that the people still here lived through long months of Russian occupation, and the layers of trauma run deep. Even on dry land, few feel safe. Russian troops are just across the river, close enough to shell Kherson every day.
It's too close, no?
Svetlana Kovtun still flinches when she hears the booms. At what point do you say, enough, I'm leaving? Never, she says. This is my motherland. I was born here, I had my children here. No. Others have little choice. This Red Cross team from Kharkiv in the north is here to move elderly and disabled people away from the flood and the front line. We already had water at our doorstep, says Natalia Belusova, with all the branches and trash flowing in. They're soon en route to the train station and a destination north. It's a crowded train, but Andrei Tridid says they don't complain.
All the time they say thank you. That's all what they said to us, because we are trying to do our best.
Like Laura Musian, who risks her life every time she measures the water every 2 hours in sight of the Russians and unsure what the water might dredge up from a shoreline dusted with landmines. The levels are dropping, she says, showing us her dry ground record. She also says someone else will surely take care of the dog. He seems less convinced. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Kherson.
Ukraine's defense minister was in Brussels today, where he got an update on his country's push for F-16 fighter planes.
Today we got the commitment of our partners that training courses will start. We'll start it with the F-16, with the Netherlands and Denmark as the leaders, and other countries will join.
Dutch officials say F-16 pilot training could start by this summer, but that Ukraine won't be getting the jets anytime soon. The F-16 Fighting Falcon is among the warplanes taking part in a massive NATO deployment exercise underway in Germany. In Alberta, officials have lifted an evacuation order for the town of Edison, and residents who fled the wildfires can now return home. More than 8,000 people were forced out of the town nearly a week ago. Essential services like grocery stores, gas stations, and pharmacies are stocking their shelves, preparing to reopen their shops on these now empty streets. And next door in BC, residents of Tumbler Ridge are starting to make their way home as well. 2,400 people were forced to leave their homes due to this raging fire last week. Firefighters say wet weather has helped reduce the fires. And the state of local emergency in the BC village of Lytton is finally lifting. This is 2 years after a wildfire tore through. Most of the village was destroyed in that June 2021 fire, which came during a record-setting heat wave. Lytton's council says the state of local emergency was kept in place to allow for remediation work. That will end June 19th, and that means residents can finally begin to rebuild. A dangerous cyclone has made landfall along coastal areas in Pakistan and India, forcing thousands from vulnerable communities into temporary shelters. Salima Shivji looks at the initial impact and the lingering fears.
The sea surges and waves crash onto the shore, bringing chaos to the coasts of both India and Pakistan. The cyclone called Biparjoy, meaning disaster in Bengali, threatening to live up to its name. It's been brewing in the Arabian Sea for days, gathering force, becoming one of the most fierce cyclones in the past 25 years. For officials, it's not just the relentless rains they fear in Biparjoy's wake, it's the possibility of flash floods inundating low-lying areas and devastating winds destroying homes.
It will gradually increase. It will become 115 to 125 kilometers per hour, gusting to 140 kilometers per hour sometimes.
For the tens of thousands of people who had to flee their homes as the cyclone approached, taking shelter far from the shore, it's still a waiting game to see how much damage the storm will wreak. We're poor. We depend on our animals. I don't know what will happen next, this woman says. That same shock and uncertainty reigns at this relief camp across the border in Pakistan's Sindh province, an area still recovering from deadly floods last fall. We're doomed, says Wilayat Bibi, 80 years old and the matriarch of a fishing family. When the cyclone has come and gone, how will we feed our children, she says. We'll be left with nothing, no boats, no huts. As despair begins to set in here, officials are warning the storm will get worse. It's expected to batter the area for 2 or 3 more days before abating. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Delhi.
Two-time Oscar winner and former British MP Glenda Jackson has died. She was 87 years old.
You don't think one needs the experience of having been married?
She won the first of those Oscars in 1971 with the film adaptation of the D.H. Lawrence novel Women in Love. The second came 3 years later for the romantic comedy A Touch of Class. In 1992, she stepped into the political spotlight, winning a seat in Parliament representing the Labour Party. Returned to acting in 2015, earning critical acclaim for multiple stage roles. Glenda Jackson died at her London home following a short illness. We have continuing coverage tonight of the fatal crash in Manitoba that has killed at least 15 people. Police confirming a bus carrying senior citizens was struck by a semi-trailer about 2 hours west of Winnipeg. In addition to the deaths, 10 people have been taken to hospital. Police have not yet confirmed the identity of the victims. In 2 minutes, we'll speak to the officer in charge of major crimes about the state of the investigation. We're following the terrible tragedy in Manitoba. At least 15 people are dead after a bus and a semi-truck collided.
The individuals in the bus were from Dauphin and surrounding areas, and it's my understanding that the majority were seniors.
It happened near the town of Carberry, between Winnipeg and Brandon. The bus was carrying about 25 people. They were headed for a casino that was nearby. 10 people were rushed to hospital with injuries. In moments, we'll speak to one of the investigators in this tragedy, but first we're going to tell you about some of the accounts that we've heard, devastating accounts from some of the first witnesses at the scene of the crash.
When we drove up, there were parts of the highway that we were turning on that were closed off, and we saw like a STARS helicopter. There was a bus on the side of the road that was completely burnt to a crisp, and then a few like emergency vehicles and paramedics. And then a semi-bus as well, and a few bodies on the floor that were covered up.
There was multiple people who had been pulled from that on the embankment of the highway. There was already tons of first responders there. I've been at several different accidents just as someone who passed by and stopped to help. I've never seen something this big.
And I saw that there was a semi-truck and a passenger vehicle got crashed. And the passenger vehicle got fired, and it was burned within half an hour. It's horrible, I can say. I was shocked, and I was not able to express anything. It was too horrible, yeah.
Joining us now is our RCMP Superintendent Rob Lasson, officer in charge of major crime services for Manitoba, and you saw him earlier in that news conference. Superintendent, you talked about just how difficult this is for everybody, including your own officers. What are you hearing from them?
Yes, that's right. I'm getting continual briefings from the officers who are on scene, but before I start, I want to extend on behalf of the RCMP in Manitoba the condolences to the victim's family. This is a terrible day for Manitoba, especially when it's affecting such a small community, to lose 15 people in circumstances like this. In regards to our members on scene, as you go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Just in regards to our members on scene, as you can understand, this is a very tragic circumstances with a lot of unfolding events, a lot of prioritization that needs to take place. This is very hard for our officers. And from my personal experience, nothing like this has happened in Manitoba, where we've lost this number of people in one single fatal motor vehicle accident.
Yeah, and you know, it's been pointed out, and it came out in the news conference as well, Humboldt, not long ago, not far away. I was one of the reporters covering that, and the echoes between those two tragedies and the huge impact, obviously, very much in people's minds. You talked about one of the roles the RCMP has here is to determine whether this was simply an accident or a crime. I know you don't want to prejudge anything, but I think you can answer this. What are you looking at in terms of deciding whether it might be a crime or not?
Right, so very good question, and part of our role is to determine exactly that. So we have specialized investigators that attend the scene, everything from major crime investigators, traffic reconstructionists, that thoroughly examine the scene and gather all the evidence, and we make a continual assessment on that. What we're looking for is all sorts of evidence. Video in today's day and age is very important, so that'll be one of the key things that our investigators are looking to secure, and we'll be reviewing any video. We'll be talking to witnesses, people driving by that possibly saw what happened, and taking statements from them and capturing their accounts.
Have you had a chance, or at least your officers, have they had a chance to speak to either of the two drivers?
Not yet, they haven't. No, they're still recovering.
And what about others who have been taken to hospital who were injured? Have any of them been able to talk to investigators?
Not yet. Our primary focus for them is their well-being and treatment in hospital. Once they become stable in consultation with health services or their medical services, then we'll approach them to interview them.
Superintendent, we have probably about a minute left. One of the terrible things in this tragedy, filled with terrible things, is identifying those who have died and giving that information to their relatives. Where are you at in that process? Have any of the next of kin been notified?
No, not yet. This is a very ongoing process, and we work very close with the Manitoba Medical Examiner's Office, because this is something we have to make sure we get right. It has to be accurate before we start confirming any next of kin notifications. We don't want to make that mistake. So it's ongoing.
And so all of a sudden your officers have been thrust in the middle of this terrible tragedy. So many roles you're playing. Just 30 seconds left, Superintendent, but what's the biggest challenge for the RCMP tonight?
The biggest challenge for us personally as an officer on the scene is to keep emotions in check. There's a lot of emotion even for our officers attending something like this. This doesn't happen every day. We deal with a lot of tragedy, a lot of hurt in our profession, but seeing something like this is unexplainable. And with that, also working with the people on scene and the other first responders is just to make sure we can collectively move the investigation forward, controlling witnesses, working with the families and all of our partners, just to make sure we address it in a collaborative effort.
Well, we so appreciate you taking the time to speak with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
RCMP Superintendent Rob Lasson. Justin Trudeau also offering his condolences to those who lost loved ones today. In a tweet, the Prime Minister said, "I'm keeping the injured in my thoughts. I cannot imagine the pain those affected are feeling, but Canadians are here for you." After the break, Rosie's here with At Issue.
Hey, Ian. Tonight we're going to talk about Marco Mendocino and that transfer of Paul Bernardo.
It is very clear that I should have been briefed at the time, and that is something that I made abundantly clear to my staff.
Who knew what, when, and how damaging is this for the minister? Chantal, Althea, and Andrew join me to talk about that and more. Hi there, I'm Rosemary Barton. Here's what's at issue this week. Marco Mendocino is facing criticism over the transfer of serial killer and rapist Paul Bernardo to a medium security prison. CBC News uncovered Mendocino's office was made aware of the transfer back in March, but the minister maintains he was not informed until May 30th, though the Prime Minister was briefed the day before him.
Is it standard operating procedure at your office that you are kept in the dark? And will you let anyone go in response to the handling of this?
Of course not. And my job as the Minister of Public Safety is to make sure that we are identifying issues where there are challenges on information flow. And so what I have done in each and every one of these cases is to be responsive to those challenges by issuing ministerial directives. As far as internal matters, I've dealt with it.
So what's next for the Office of Public Safety and Marco Mendocino? Let's bring everybody in. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. And forgive me again for my voice again this week, you guys. I swear that I'm on the mend. Chantal, let's start with you. We have seen examples in the past of public safety ministers who are surprised by information around offenders and then can't do anything about it because Corrections Canada is a separate entity. How bad is this politically specifically for the minister at this point?
Well, you can have a discussion about the fact that politicians should not be micromanaging specific cases that correctional services are handling. But you need to have a larger conversation about the fact that the minister, a public safety minister, seems to be out of the loop of issues on which he should have had a heads up. Now, Mr. Mendicino says he never was told about this by his staff or by anyone before he found out that the transfer had actually happened. The opposition says he's lying. My problem with this is my mind is boggled by the notion that his staff, having been told by the Prime Minister's office, would not pass on the heads up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Mr. Mendicino is a former Crown prosecutor. I can't believe that he would have such poor judgment with that background not to know that this was an issue that would become delicate politically for the government.
It's perplexing on a bunch of levels, I think, Andrew, in terms of why he wasn't told and then why he reacted the way he did, even though he did know one day before. It's all very perplexing.
Yeah, there's a context to this, of course, a couple of contexts. One is it seems to be a pattern with this government generally that ministers, including the Prime Minister, will say when an issue heats up, oh, I wasn't told. Yeah. The Prime Minister's office on the whole thing with the Chinese interference. Well, we didn't know. It wasn't translated to us. Bill Blair was saying the same thing. Yeah. Harjit Sajjan said, I didn't read my emails when a senator was offering fake passes out of Afghanistan. So there's that context. And secondly, there's a suspicion, not necessarily ill-founded, that Mr. Mendicino may not be telling the whole truth here. From previous experiences, people have some reason to doubt when, for example, he was saying that when they invoked the Emergencies Act, they did so on the advice of police. So you put those two together. I don't know if it's a resigning offense. Frankly, it would be a resigning offense if he had interfered with a decision of the correctional services. We don't want politicians to be deciding who goes to which jail any more than we want them to deciding who gets arrested or put on trial. But you certainly want ministers to be kept in the loop, and you want them to be setting down ground rules with the people who work for them to say, I want to be kept informed of things. I don't want plausible deniability.
And it does seem that Minister Mendicino has had some challenges. This is a kind way of saying it, Althea. There's been challenges in his portfolio, and I don't know if that's him or his staff or both.
That is a kind way of saying it, Rosie. Well, first, I would say he misled the House of Commons on the Emergencies Act. I think if we're looking for a firing offence, in my view, that would have been one. But then there was also confusion around his own firearms legislation. There's confusing information from him and his office about the police station that are apparently run by China. He seems to have misled on that. And so he's almost a little bit like the boy who cried wolf. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, I think it's still very bizarre that nobody is being held responsible. And to that, I mean, you saw that question being asked by a CBC reporter, and the opposition has been asking it as well. Why hasn't anybody resigned? If somebody in his office knew of this, and apparently behind the scenes were told that, well, staff were told and they were dialoguing with the department and they were told that there was really nothing they could do. If Corrections Canada thought it was so important that they would warn the department and they would warn PCO, clearly they thought there was something that the politicians might be interested in knowing. And Mr. Mendicino's own actions so far in his conversation with Corrections Canada that led to the review, in his issuing of ministerial directions, these all show that actually actions could be taken. So why would you not inform the minister? And so I think those are legitimate questions, and I think they deserve to be answered. I think I would also flag that, kind of 6 degrees of separation. Mr. Mendicino's chief of staff is a woman who used to be Katie Telford's former executive assistant. They're very close, Katie Telford being the chief of staff to the Prime Minister. So, who knew what when and who was told, and was the minister purposely kept in the dark, or is this just the directive he has given to his staff. I find that very perplexing.
Chantal, then Andrew. Chantal, then Andrew. Chantal.
In this very centralized system, normally when word comes out of the PMO to a minister's office, people take notice.
Yeah.
That's how the system works. Now, if in this case they take notice but don't tell the minister, there has to be a sense, and to Althea's point, that this is a minister that we'd rather not tell things to. If that's the case, he doesn't necessarily belong in cabinet anymore. But to have a minister say, a public safety minister, say this is outrageous about a decision by Corrections Canada, rather than say what both Andrew and I have said, which is you do not micromanage at the political level what Corrections Canada does with people, is also astounding. So when you look at the entire picture, it's one big mess with very few saving graces for the minister.
Andrew.
The culture is set from the top. The minister sets the culture in his department, in his office. The prime minister sets the culture for the government. So, you know, if this sort of thing is going on, not just in this office, which is troublesome enough, but more generally in the government, then it's the prime minister ultimately who should be held to account on this. I think the other thing to note on this is it's not just a matter about whether ministers are being kept apprised by their staff. There's also just the role of ministers generally. It's kind of telling that the prime minister found out about this before the minister did, at least according to both of theirs account. And if ministers have dwindled in significance to such an extent, if things are so centralized in the prime minister's office, it may be the case that staff are simply cutting out the middleman and taking their concerns and their issues straight to the PMO rather than to the responsible minister, and that's troublesome as well.
But you would want to give PMO a heads up, I would think, right? Like you would want the centre to know that someone like this was being moved and to expect it as an issue to manage.
But you would certainly want the responsible minister, if ministers have any role whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not for the PMO, and the PMO got the heads up. It didn't get it from Mendocino's office, but you would certainly find normal in a normal government that the minister in charge of public safety be briefed and take care of this file and be the points person on it.
Althea.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't expect your staff to tell the Prime Minister's office before they let you know, months before they let you know. So I agree with all of that. I think two things on this front that I think that's very interesting. One, obviously, we're having this conversation with the backdrop that we all expect a cabinet shuffle in the next few weeks, at least before the House returns in September. And so it will be very interesting to see if Mr. Mendocino remains, not just in his portfolio, but remains in cabinet, because what message is the Prime Minister sending by keeping Mr. Mendocino in cabinet? And the other thing I'd like to just mention briefly is that we are seeing a very stark differentiation between the opposition and the government when it comes to the way that they treat serious criminals and the correction agencies and the way that they want to treat punishment. That to me is a kind of like the policy conversation that we're not really having, because those differences have become very, very stark in the last few days.
Chantal, what does this tell you about the state of the government in terms of whether it needs to hit a refresh button or something? I mean, this is one minister's office, but there are other things going on too.
Well, refresh button, when you have a culture that's set in over 8 years, and Andrew is right, that starts from the top, is very hard to push. I think possibly a shuffle, because there are weak links. At this point, they've become glaringly obvious. You keep hearing about prorogation, a new speech from the throne. I'm not convinced that a throne speech would do anything except get people to say, this is a government that has run out of fresh ideas. You can't reinvent your agenda every 18 months and have people believe that you're a serious government.
But you can refocus on your ideas, the ideas that you have and that you haven't executed yet, Andrew.
Well, but there's the operative word, haven't executed yet. One of the recurring themes of this government, it seems to me, is they seem kind of overwhelmed. I think of all the appointments, for example, in the judiciary and elsewhere that have gone unfilled for so long. Mm-hmm. They're trying to run so many things through the PMO. This was a government that came to power, remember, saying cabinet government was back. That's turned out to be a complete fallacy, completely false, that it's never been more centralized. And one of the consequences of that centralization is stuff, languages, doesn't get done. The government looks exhausted and overwhelmed. So maybe they need to go back to the well of saying, maybe we need to start taking cabinet government seriously and delegating authority so you don't get these kinds of snafus over and over again.
Althea?
I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. I think the ministers are far less managed than they were in the Stephen Harper era, but there definitely is a bottleneck in the Prime Minister's office, and decisions do get put off and get delayed and get delayed and get delayed. And I think that is a source of frustration for a lot of cabinet ministers as well. I don't know that the government needs to hit a complete reset button with a throne speech and prorogation. I think they probably need a cabinet shuffle. They need a cabinet retreat. They need to decide what they want to refocus on.
Okay, I got to leave it there. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with my squeaky voice again this week. And with that, I'll send things back to Ian in Vancouver. Before we go, though, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. You can find that on cbc.ca or any major podcast app. Now, back to Ian in Vancouver.
And please get better soon, Rosie. Some shoppers have noticed something new at some grocery stores, random receipt checks. We'll tell you what's behind it and the pushback from some unhappy customers. New numbers from the Canadian Real Estate Association show May home sales were up 5.1% from April. That resulted in the first year-over-year increase since June 2021. The national average cost for a home was $729,000, up 3.2%. For many Canadians, it's food prices that are still top of mind, so finding out about receipt checks at certain grocery stores may have left many people kind of unhappy. Sophia Harris has a look.
John McCracken was shocked when he recently visited his local superstore owned by Loblaw and spotted this. A sign stating his store was checking customer receipts when exiting.
I was really disgusted. I thought it was really adding insult to injury after all the price gouging.
Over the past year, food prices have increased 9%, so it's no surprise shoplifting is on the rise. Experts say receipt checks are used as a theft deterrent.
They do that probably to send a message to sort of scare away shoplifters. It's really almost like a scarecrow.
I don't like the approach, so it kind of makes you feel like a criminal.
Zain Ismail saw the same sign at this Loblaw-owned store. He said he also witnessed an employee checking shoppers' receipts as they exited.
It just feels very aggressive.
In an email, Loblaw said the receipt check signs were posted in select stores to let customers know about a change in practice at the location. The company noted that receipt checks are not unusual in retail. Walmart told CBC News receipt checks can be part of its theft prevention measures, but the practice can be problematic.
There are biases.
This criminal lawyer says customers don't have to comply if they've committed no crime.
Unless it's a store for which you've purchased a membership, you are under no legal obligation to show a receipt when exiting a store. You are free to walk away.
And there's the problem of customer backlash.
It's an invasion of our privacy.
McCracken complained to Superstore's manager. Other customers complained on social media. And now the shoppers CBC News spoke with say the signs at their stores are gone.
You know, it's a small victory.
Perhaps Loblaw wouldn't say whether receipt checks are gone for good. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, an emotional graduation.
I would really love for him to be here, but I did it for him.
A mother honoring her son by finishing his diploma. That's in our moment. We continue to watch for updated information to that horrific crash in Manitoba. At least 15 people are dead, 10 others injured.
Death on this scale is never normalized for us. Our hearts go out to everyone involved in this horrible, horrible incident.
Police say a semi-truck collided with a bus. The bus was headed to a nearby casino. Danita Algar is dealing with the pain of losing her son, Ben. He died of cancer in 2021. But yesterday, she walked across the stage in Oshawa, Ontario, graduating from Durham College in his place. It was one of his last requests that his mother take his place in the carpentry program. Honoring her promise is our moment.
Danita Elgar, highest ranking graduate.
My son came to Durham College several years ago. In October, he was diagnosed with cancer. Ben passed in July. He asked me to do this for him. So in September, I started in the program, and it saved my life, really saved me. Dawn, one of the instructors from the school, arranged to hold the spot for me.
I said, Ben wants you to do it, and so I said, honor him and do it. Having Danita in the course was just one of the most amazing things that I could say I've had in the last 26 years of teaching. She would just mentor students. She was like more of a mentor to students, I think, than I was. Knowing that Ben was looking down on her, pretty proud moment.
I did it for him. Ben was a great kid. He was kind, he was supportive, and we really miss him.
Oh, bittersweet ending to a newscast on what has been a night of difficult news. That is the National for this June 15th. Thanks for being with us, and we'll be reporting tomorrow night from Manitoba.